Hi there, Lesson 8, Bible 101, Part 2. We're talking about baptism, and one of the first questions that people might ask with baptism is just, what does the word mean? What is baptism? So first, I just want to take us back to how the word was used at the time of Jesus, because that's the most important thing. How does Jesus use this word baptism? How was it used when they were writing the Bible? So we're going to look at Mark chapter 7, verses 1 through 4. One of the Gospels, Mark 7, 1 through 4. If you've got one of these paperback Bibles from church, you'll find this on page 687. Page 687. All right, so we're going to look at verses 1 through 4. The Pharisees and some of the teachers of the law who had come from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus and saw some of his disciples eating food with hands that were defiled, that is, unwashed. The Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they give their hands a ceremonial washing, holding to the tradition of the elders. When they come from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they wash, and they observe many other traditions, such as the washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles. Super random section, right, Pastor? Seems like it. But this is going to help us determine what the word baptism means. So, you didn't see the word baptism in there, but it was there in the Greek. The Pharisees came up to Jesus. They were upset because the disciples weren't following the traditions now they weren't biblical mandates, they weren't things that were sinful if they skipped these things, but they had a tradition of ceremonially washing their hands, sprinkling their hands with water, dipping their hands in water before eating to show cleanness. So the word that is used for all these ceremonial cleanings that the Jewish people did, these washings, is the word for baptism, baptizo. So we're looking at, what does it mean to baptize something? Well, let's look at some of these words for baptism. So we've got these ceremonial washings with the hands, and then they come in from the marketplace. They don't eat unless they wash, and they observe many other traditions, such as the washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles. So think about that. How would you wash a cup if you were giving it a ceremonial washing? Now, if I had a cup, I needed to give a little rinse before I was going to drink from it. Maybe I would take this and put it into a bowl of water, dunk it under, pour the water back out. It's coffee. And that might be how I give it a ceremonial washing. Now what about what's the next one? A bowl, I think? Pitchers, washing of cups, pitchers. So now you've got a pitcher for pouring water. How would you wash that? Maybe you would have a big kettle or a bowl you could dump it all the way under. Maybe you would pour some water into it and swirl it around and take it out. Maybe you would even sprinkle some water on it to give it a ceremonial washing. And now, what about kettles? So now we've got something much bigger. Are you going to take that and find something even bigger to dunk it into? Are you going to carry it to the river every time you want to use it for eating to give it a ceremonial washing? If so, are you going to put it all the way under, or will you maybe take water, sprinkle it on it, wipe water on it, swish water around in it, maybe from the pitcher? Just practical ways these baptisms could have happened. Now, if you look in your Bible, you'll probably see a little footnote. I have a raised letter B at the end of verse 4. Pitchers and kettles, and then it lets us know there's a textual note that should be at the bottom of your Bible. So if you go down to letter B, my Bible here says, some early manuscripts, pitchers, kettles, and dining couches. So the Bible was written, Mark wrote it once by hand in Greek, and then it was copied. And different churches and monks made copies, and they were very, very careful about how they made them so that churches all over could have the scriptures. So now we can go back and compare what these different manuscripts say, because there are some differences in them, but thankfully there's so many and they're so widespread, we can look and say, what do they say? If there's a difference, is it kind of a standalone? And then, okay, here's a difference in this manuscript, but all the other ones say this. Oh, okay, there was an error somewhere in there, or an addition, or someone accidentally left something out. It's pretty easy to tell. Some of them are a little bit trickier, and then you look at it, and one of the things we often do is say, well, was this, the way that this one was written, was it early? Do our earliest manuscripts, closer to the time of Jesus, have this or that word in there? And then is it widespread? Was it found in Egypt and in Jerusalem and in Rome or something like that? And if you see that it is early and it's widespread, then you can usually say, well, that's most likely the original. Now, none of these affect any doctrines of our faith, and it's really nice our pastors are able to go look into this, and language scholars to be able to see, well, what did the Bible say? Now, this says so there are early manuscripts that add in this word dining couches. And if you look at the evidence, it would be a very good reading, and I think that's probably the original reading that Mark did write. They give ceremonial washes also to dining couches. It doesn't really matter either way, but maybe just think about this in the context of baptism. If a dining couch is what archaeologists say it might be, it could be even a huge slab of rock that people would have reclined against while they were eating. But think of some kind of a couch where people could lean against and sit. How are you going to baptize that? Are you going to carry it down to the river and dunk it under? Probably not. You're going to sprinkle it, wipe it, something like that to give it a ceremonial cleaning. So a lot about these ceremonial cleanings, a lot about baptism, but I think what you can understand and see is that there were a variety of ways to apply water to something for cleansing, wrapped up in this word for baptism. In classical Greek, which comes before Koine Greek, common Greek that was in use in Jesus' time, baptism usually meant dunking something under water. But by the time Jesus was using it and the gospel writers were using it, baptism had become something that was more general, and we see that here. So you can write a definition for what does baptism mean. In a general sense, the word baptism means to apply water in any manner for cleansing. To apply water in any manner for cleansing. That's what a baptism is. And we'll see how Jesus gives that very specific implications and promises as we continue to study baptism next time.